Before we get into a deep conversation around class inequality, I want to make sure that we understand the role that capitalism plays and what capitalism is, because obviously this is really important to the sort of class inequality that we're witnessing in contemporary times, but also it's relevant to Karl Marx's chapter, The Communist Manifesto, because he's essentially critiquing capitalism and the structure of capitalism and how that influences the wealthy and their behaviors and their ability to maintain their class privilege. We want to think of capitalism as an economic system. In that economic system, it is based almost entirely around wages and labor. So there are other forms of economic systems, not only across space in contemporary times, although capitalism by far dominates from a global perspective, but also throughout history. There's been different ways of exchanging goods. And of course, the most popular is this process of capitalism where we work for money, we earn those wages, and then we spend those wages on products that other people worked to create. Through that lens, we see that there's this production of commodities, and that commodities are produced in order for the people who, according to Marx, he calls them the owners of the means of production, people who can own factories, who can own businesses, that are able to hire other people to create that thing that's going to be sold. That thing that's going to be sold is a commodity, and it is sold for a profit. So while I might hire somebody to create that product, I'm not going to pay them the full worth of their labor. I'm not going to pay them the full value of the number of hours and the amount of effort and time that they may have put into that item, because I want to profit from it as a capitalist. And where this becomes additionally problematic is that humans are also considered commodities. So we sell ourselves all of the time. My cat has decided that he wants to make an appearance. This is PB. He's sweet, but also incredibly naughty. Oh, he's changed his mind now. Now he just wants to climb all over the keyboard. So when humans become commodities, you want to think about how, for example, maybe you work in the service industry and you are required to be really nice to people, you're required to be really accommodating, you're required to be happy even if you aren't in a service position. You are possibly selling your emotional well-being. You're forced to be happy when you don't necessarily feel that way. You're forced to be emotionally accommodating even though the customer isn't always right. You're forced to be upbeat, friendly, outgoing, to upsell. These are things that are your own personal, emotional, and human expression, but it doesn't feel natural to you. And so you actually sell your ability to craft and create and reflect these emotions to the customer. The people who own the company you work for, of course, is going to profit from that, because the more you produce that emotional response, the more people are going to buy, and then the more profits they're going to make. And then this can quite literally mean selling human bodies. If we look at something like pornography, or if we look at sex workers, sex trafficking, these are individuals literally being sold, their bodies being sold for profit. So this does not exclude humans. It includes humans as a form of commodity, and our labor and the things we produce as forms of commodity. Capitalism can be a very isolating force, meaning that it encourages us to put profits over people. It encourages us to kind of think about ourselves first, right? Because there's such great competition in terms of work positions, in terms of access to pay, in terms of access to job or career opportunities, that we don't really make much of an effort to think about other people's success or how we could participate in that. Instead, it tends to be a pull yourself up by the bootstraps and make something of yourself. And if you have to step on people to get ahead, do it, because profits matter above all else. And for some students, I think this is usually the first realization that capitalism is even a system, and that it's one of many that we've had in terms of historical or geographical space. The reason why you haven't even thought about this as a thing, or as that there could be alternatives, is because it is so embedded in our cultural thinking and our cultural behaviors. We take it for granted, and it becomes this form of hegemonic control because it kind of seeps into every aspect of our everyday life. It affects our families, it affects our friendships, it affects our work relationships, it affects the system of education. So it's very systemic in that it is very normalized in every institution that we participate in, and then therefore feels very natural and taken for granted. And capitalism has its way, because it is so deeply embedded in every institution in society, of really affecting those elements of culture. So it influences our normative behavior and expectations. It influences our values. It influences what we believe, especially about class and hard work. It influences our attitudes towards people of different class standings. And so all of those elements of culture that we learned about back in Module 2 are going to be affected by the system of capitalism because it is so systemic.